So the vision, the global vision for this month that we've been talking about is wholeness. And, we harp on it, the wholeness. And the power of community is it's something you can see, but it's not something that's tangible, if that makes any sense. It's both and. And the Centers for Spiritual Living, we've all bounded together. And this month we're talking about the wholeness in the community. And one of the things that is stated is we see our communities as empowered with the realization of unity and wholeness, from which flows the ultimate healing power of forgiveness and love. Forgiveness and love. So, in the dictionary, community has a very mundane and simple definition. A group of people living in the same area, sharing the same religion, the same race, the same interests, whatever. I find that incredibly unsatisfying. And so I went on a search and different descriptions of community. And Omid Safi, who's one of the columnists on the podcast On Being on NPR, says community is an almost alchemical reaction that happens among all that are capable of becoming, or being and becoming. So all of us here are capable of being and becoming. We showed up today. We're here together. And we know that we're connected to each other. That the beautiful bonds are beautiful bonds. Beautiful similarities, beautiful differences, the whole full range. And it's about being fully in relationship. When I was welcoming visitors, I was joking about, here we are. We don't behave a certain way. We're not consistent either, by the way. At least I strive to be real, even though, anyway, we don't need to go into that. You may see later. And then another definition from Scott Pack. I don't know. He's actually not been around for a while, but it's a group of individuals who have learned how to communicate honestly with each other, whose relationships go deeper than their masks of composure, and who have developed some significant commitment to rejoice together, mourn together, and to delight in each other, make others' conditions our own. So if someone's in sadness, I can meet you there. If you're in joy, I can meet you there. Now, we may not stay there, but we can meet each other where we are and be true. I don't know how many of you watch the NewsHour and Washington Week in Review. But Gwen Eifel's passing. How many of you know Gwen Eiffel? Gwen Eiffel. She was in news as a journalist. Her passing just hit me like us. And I don't know if it's because of all that's going on in the world, but when I talked about my little veil of emotions being thing, I knew I was going to cry, so it's okay. And Sharon Joy gave me permission. So, and Gary's already used to this. Every time, like Friday night, they had we watched it yesterday or something. They had another presentation about her. Anyway, she's this black woman journalist who created a community beyond my knowing. And I didn't know I was in the community until I had this huge reaction. But some of you may know Pete Williams, the NBC News guy. He was next to crying when he was talking about her. So the community of people across media outlets and everything like that and clear, concise, always for the truth, but loving and compassionate and mentoring other people to come up. I mean, we've lost a light. And, it was the community. It's just, oh my God, I couldn't believe the sense of community that was shown and the genuineness that was shown and the emotion. Judy Woodruff, I could see her tears. I could see them. So it's just, it made all those people that I see on television so much more human. And it's like, oh yeah, we're all in this together. We truly are one. I was part of a community even though I didn't consciously know it, because otherwise I wouldn't have cared, I don't think. I don't know. But what are the characteristics of community? What brings us together? Part of it is that, at least here, anybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome. It doesn't matter if you have green ears and a red nose. It doesn't matter how you dress. It doesn't matter. You are included. You are welcome. And that needs to be true no matter what. Like I said, the laughter, the tears. So whatever emotional state you're in, that's welcome too. Because you're entering an alchemical field. Because whatever state we walk in to a community, especially a loving one like this one, we do not leave the same way. So, I can walk in like this rock. And it's rough. It's a nice. I like rocks, so it's a good rock. I appreciate rocks. It's not especially remarkable, whatever. But it walked in the door, so we love the rock. And then over the course of years, maybe minutes, depending on what's going on, the rock turns to a geode that has been polished. I don't know if you guys can see this. I've already had compliments on it. And the crystals that have all come together to make up the rock, same crystalline, all of us are like this. And then we come into a community and we get polished, and maybe bits of us get knocked off, usually, hopefully, the bits that we don't need, that aren't good for us. So, but we're all in here together. And Ahmed Safi was talking about wanting to be around people who bring out the best in him. So I want to play with people that bring out the best in me, and hopefully I bring out the best in them. But I can only do that in a community that is open and safe, and we are honest and true. So we can hang out with all of our little warts and all of our little idiosyncrasies, but we're committed to it. It's like how many times have you felt like you needed to leave, perhaps? It's like, wait a second, but I'm committed. I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm celebrating. I don't like that person. Well, that person's your teacher. If you, the fact that you're reacting to them, big clue there's a lesson there in that relationship. Now, do you have to hang out with them for the rest of your life? No. But there's a lesson. And when you learn that lesson or open up your heart or do whatever is called for, the alchemical thing happens. And there's a shift. So, the sorrow, the joy, the freedom to be who and what you are in that moment, in here, and appreciate each other's gifts in humility. Just know we are all in that humanness of us. And it's not a competition. Sometimes I've seen it in other spaces and I've heard conversations. It's like, ain't it awful? No, my ain't it awful is worse. No, my ain't it awful is worse. It's like, wait a second. It's like, you wouldn't be laughing if you hadn't experienced it. So it's being able to say, you know what? I can shift this. And in a community like this, we come together to remind ourselves of that. Because if we want to play the ain't it awful game, we can go out there and find someone to play with. There's not going to be a problem with that. But in a community like this, we go into self-contemplation. It's like, what's going on here? Know thyself. What's going on in here? Because it's reflected out there. Now, the other thing is communities, they're powerful, but they have their ups and downs. You know, this is my analogy. I would think that sometimes you can drop out of community because the place isn't safe for some reason. And then to me, it doesn't meet my criteria, my definition of community. But then you can come back out of it. And over the course of time, every community goes through the ups and downs. It's the wisdom in the community that has you realize, oh, we're not going in the direction we want, and then we go back up. We rise. We go back up. And so it's dynamic. And so it's just like if your body's not feeling well, you're not healthy. Okay, the body of my community for some reason isn't healthy. What can I do about it? What's going on? Recognize that. And I mentioned the safe place. The other thing about being safe is having it be, can you be vulnerable here? Can you be like, oh my God, I need to tell a story, my sad story. I need to bawl. I need to cry. I need to really let it out. And if it's a safe place, you can do that, the risk. You can take that risk. And nobody's trying to change you. We need to watch it. Sometimes we want to make you feel better. Wait a second. We want you to experience your feelings and have your own inner teacher step forward. We're here to support and love you. But if you're not doing your own inner work, can't make a good word sound. But it doesn't happen if you're not doing your own inner work too. So that's just really important because Scott Peck reminds us there can be no vulnerability without risk. And we need to be willing to take those risks. There can be no community without vulnerability. There can be no peace and ultimately no life without community. I know that all of you have communities all over in your life. Different communities you've belonged to over the years, different communities you're in right now, and you've developed relationships and trust and grown out of that. So many of you may know Parker J. Palmer. He came out of the Quaker tradition and is still writing wonderful books. But he says relational trust is built on the movements of the human heart, such as empathy, commitment, compassion, patience, and the capacity to forgive. Some of you may know that Gary and I were in southern Italy in early October. So one of the things that we encountered, we went to dinner our last night in Sorrento, and this beautiful little restaurant. We're sitting, those of you who've been to Europe you could sit you're basically on the road, but they put tables and chairs and all that stuff out there. And this restaurant was great. They had a mandolin player coming around who worked for the restaurant. We had a great meal. My husband was so sweet, and he was taking good care of me. And then the mandolin player came by, and he played us a tune, and Gary gave him a nice little tip, which is, really nice, unusual. We don't usually buy the roses the guys come around with. It's like, we don't need the roses. Anyway, so, but the music was sweet. And then the mandolin player was wandering around a little bit, and he went off, and he was like behind a trellis, like a lattice. And there were, plants growing up, and it's like you couldn't see what was going on, but I could just barely maybe see a face. And then the mandolin player came back and was talking to us. Oh, I want to sing you another song, but then he wandered off again. And we were getting ready to leave. We were done with our meal. So we stood up, we went over to where he was, behind the little lattice, and he was with his friend who was in a wheelchair. It must have been ALS or MS or something. And so he was in his chair, and the older gentleman, mandolin player, told us, well, this is my friend, and he used to be a mandolin player, and he had a mandolin, and they wanted to play us a song. So the strolling mandolin player played the song, and the other one, he couldn't sing, but he could, every once in a while he would strum. And he would strum at the perfect time. And so that friendship, that compassion, that love, and Gary and I were standing there in the street. So it was the four of us, and they did a song for us. So I felt like that was a little microcosm of community, a fleeting one, but so precious and unexpected. We were going out because we were hungry. But this gift, this little jewel came to us. And it's community, and it was born out of the love that this man had for his friend. And I sometimes envy the musicians because they have a common language. Musicians connect on so many levels. It's such a blessing. Yeah, I could go on with stories, but we don't have time for all of them. Yeah. So the community is a place where you can come and try things out. And sometimes they don't work, and we love you anyway. And sometimes they work, and we love you anyway. Because I know, well, you guys have written songs. That's putting yourself out there big time. Some people have taught classes. Some people have made an announcement. You put yourself out there in ways that you wouldn't necessarily do in the outside world, because this is a safe community. You can play, you can experiment, you can try stuff out. Anyway, it's all, excuse me, it's great. Yeah. The other thing a healthy community does is fight, because you're real. So you fight gracefully. You come out, you say your piece, and we listen to each other. And sometimes that alchemical thing happens sooner. And then the key is sometimes it takes a while. But then to get that time to be shorter. So maybe it could be a day. And I don't know. Because I know there are some people in this congregation, this group, who think moving to another place is a great idea. And I know there are a few people who don't think it's a great idea. And we're working through that. We're talking about it. We're seeing what's going on. And we're moving along towards it. And I'm supportive of it because I know that in the next moment we'll make a good decision. So if there's a pile of money for our next building, and there is, and it's growing, then this group, this congregation has the wisdom to do the next step. So we vision, but we also are able and willing to adjust. We're adaptable, we're flexible, and that's what communities have to be. Because there's something special going on in communities. That's why we come together. That's our hope for the future. One of the other things is in this community, we're blessed because we've come together around one thing. It's not that we've come together for community. We've come together around the knowing and the belief that we are one. We are divine spirit. We are one with God. And we are, because of that belief, we're drawn into community. So we don't go, I'm going to join a community. Have you ever said that? No, probably not. I want to go play with somebody who thinks like me and maybe doesn't think like me. It's like, I need some fresh ideas because what I'm doing is not cutting it. I need someone to shake me up. And you can look for that in community too. I don't know how many of you are aware of this. Hopefully most of you. Do most people have one of the programs? Okay, in the inside back cover, there is our sacred covenant. Here's an extra one.
Thank you.
Have you guys seen that recently? Here you go. I only had two. Okay. I have a copy up here. So what I'd actually like to do is read it together. because it's what we're doing. It's what we've committed to in this. And this was developed several years ago, of course, but it was developed by people in this community, some of whom are still here, some of whom are gone. But just let's see what we're about. So the Sierra Center for Spiritual Living, Sacred Covenant. Let's go. Purpose, unity, vision, celebrating our oneness in spirit, foundational scripture. Behold, how good and joyful a thing it is, beloved, to gratefully dwell together in love and unity. My intentions for my center are, number one, to embody, express, and experience love and unity as the infinite truth. Number two, to faithfully live the science of mind and spirit teaching with clarity, compassion, and trust. Number three, to be a sacred community consciously serving one another as the presence of God. Number four, to be and to express love and service to the greater community with compassion, mindfulness. Five, to seek to heal upset, knowing disharmony is a call to go within. 6, to be financially prosperous and perpetually grateful for the infinite flow of good. And so it is. Because we've declared that, and it sits in that bulletin, and some of us remember about it, and some of us read it. I think the board reads it every time, don't you? Yeah. So the board of trustees is holding that high watch for all of us, and it's in there every Sunday. So we're all in it together. We're all interconnected, and we get to awaken each other. And we do it with love. We do it with love. One other thing, I don't know if you noticed, last week, we've got good numbers this week, but last week this place was packed. I have a theory that one person said was true. We were all surprised and a little bit in shock. So what did we naturally do? We came together in community. We joined together. We come to touchstone each other, to be in comfortable company. And we comforted each other. We talked about it. One of the things that this talk led me to explore is, and to discover, is a book by Parker J. Palmer that I've already ordered. I haven't got it yet. But it's called Healing the Heart of Democracy: The Courage to Create a Politics Worthy of the Human Spirit. Yeah, it sounds very interesting. So anyway, what he talks about is 5 habits of the heart, and understanding that we are all in this together. And it's not just here, it's everywhere. 2, an appreciation of the value of otherness. Because if we're all together and we all think the same, it's a group think, and it's not going to be the highest and best expression of reality. We need diversity. We need to have different ways of thinking and different points of view and different things to look at. It's like, I never thought of it that way. Oh, it's such a good thing to do. Number 3, an ability to hold tensions in life-giving ways. Because life is full of tensions. There's a dynamic to it. There's good news, baby was born, somebody I cared about died in the same week, in the same day. It just happens. 4, a sense of personal voice and agency. We talk about here how powerful we all are. And sometimes we forget how powerful we are, how our thoughts change the world, change our experience. And then 5th, a capacity to create community. So I should have the book by Tuesday. So we'll see. It's called Healing the Heart of Democracy: The Courage to Create a Politics Worthy of the Human Heart. So our task really is to experience community full out, to be real with each other, to be inclusive of each other, to experiment, to grow, to learn, to appreciate, and to love. It's all available. So let's do our affirmation. And I'll say it once. I dwell in unity, love, joy, and peace with all. Together. I dwell in unity, love, joy, and peace with all. I dwell in unity, love, joy, and peace with all. I dwell in unity, love, joy, and peace with all. Namaste.